Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with more Bretonnian goodness. In today's video, I'm going to go through each and every different version of knight that exists in a Bretonnian army, talk you through the strengths and weaknesses of them, how they look, why they're different, why they exist, and a little bit of background information and lore on them. From the humble Knights Errand all the way down the line to the glorious Grail Knights. This video should be a lot of fun to make and share with you guys, and I hope you very much enjoy it. Before I get into the video, big thank you to all of my active patrons. You guys are heroes. You help keep the lights on and these cameras rolling. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. If you want to get involved in that yourself, there's links down in the description below. You get access to a private Discord server, and you get daily vlogs from me keeping you up to date what's happening in the channel behind the scenes, and you can also help the different content that I make. So if that's something that interests you, you want to help the channel grow, check that out yourself. Okay, without further ado, let's jump in and show you guys the difference between all these awesome knights. Knights Errant are those young sons of Bretonnian nobility whom have yet to prove themselves worthy to become an honoured and full-fledged knight of the realm. All noble sons of Bretonnia are committed to the path of knighthood from the moment they are born. Though birth into nobility guarantees his place within the circles of knighthood, a young noble is not honoured until he has proven his worth. Some earn status through faithful service to their lords, others through powerful connections with family ties, but the most glorious and true way for a young knight to fulfill his calling is to test themselves against a foe on the field of battle. These deeds are known as errands, and it is a requirement for a young knight to finish his errand before he may be accepted into the higher echelons of Bretonnian nobility. Knights of the Empire start their careers following after some other knight, acting as nothing more than a servant. Knights Errant, however, are expected to travel widely, often alone, seeking out perilous situations in which to prove their worth. As a result, they can be found anywhere in the old world, sometimes to the chagrin of the natives. These are the Knights Errant, the impetuous knights. They do indeed have the impetuous rule, which means that at the beginning of every turn they must measure their maximum charge distance, and if there is any unit that is within that range, they must charge unless they pass an impetuous test, which is actually just rolling a d6. On a 1, 2, 3 they pass and do not have to charge. On a 4, 5, 6 they go a little bit crazy and they charge out to seek their glory, hopefully winning some sort of epic duel, epic battle, or getting involved in an epic fight and advancing to the rank of the Knights of the Realm. So Knights Errant, unit number 1. Knights of the Realm are Bretonnian nobles who have proven their skill and valour in combat. Having battled the kingdom's foes as young Knights Errant, they make up the bulk of the nobility of Bretonnia and command great respect, both for their station and for the deeds they have performed to reach it. Upon their investiture, Knights of the Realm are given the responsibility of administering a domain, generally a few acres of land, a village, and a castle from which they have absolute rule. Those under a knight's rule are bound to his service, to work his land and pay their taxes, and in exchange the knight provides the subjects with protection within the hierarchy of Bretonnian feudal system. The Knights of the Realm are bound by fealty to lords of higher status and prestige, scaling all the way up to the Royarch himself. These are Knights of the Realm. These make up the backbone of pretty much all Bretonnian forces. They are the most common knight that you will see on the battlefield, but they are in no means a common knight. They are powerful fighters in the battlefield. They are kind of cheap in points, like 26 points a model, and to get a 3+ save kind of armored horse wielding a lance. Pretty decent in a fight. They got a bunch of extra rules for being in, of course, their glorious lance formation. You can basically field a unit of 6 of them for less than 200 points. And they are hard hitting and menacing for their enemy to deal with. So nothing particularly special, no crazy rules. They literally sit in the middle. The most common knight unit. Nothing really much to say about them, except you will have a couple of units of them in your army, is my guess. A questing knight is a former knight of Bretonnia who has taken the questing vow and now seeks the blessing of the Lady of the Lake in the hopes of becoming accepted into the ranks of the legendary Grail Knights. Since the days of Gilles le Breton, the Grail has been the ultimate symbol of Bretonnian chivalry, and the ultimate goal of any true knight is to drink from its holy waters and be accepted as one of the holy guardians of the lady herself. A pledge of oneself to undertake such an arduous task should not be declared lightly, for only the most ambitious or perhaps the most desperate of knights would trust such a quest upon himself, either for the pure-hearted honour of serving the lady or as a means to forgive past sins. Whatever the reason for his decision, once a knight has taken it upon himself to become a questing knight, he is required by law and custom to relinquish the use of a lance, a symbol of his duty as a former knight, and instead forever use the sword as a means of enacting his deeds, battling the hardiest of foes he can find. He is also required to relinquish all of his worldly possessions, his tithes and his domains, and even to forsake all ties with both family and kin. Before setting off upon his valiant quest, such a knight must first institute an heir or other knight to fulfill his former duties and administrate over his former realm. Once all is set in motion, the questing knight packs all of his requires for his journey and sets out into the world to enact chivalric deeds and win noble glory in his quest to gain the attention of the lady.
These are questing knights. These are all very unique and individual knights, all coming from different households and the like. The thing that makes these knights stand out from all other knights is they do not carry lances into battle. Each and every one of them is armed with a great weapon, which means they charge in sweeping two-handed cleavers, great weapons, two-handed battle axes, and the like, which means that on the second round of combat, where most knights would fall down as their lance are no longer in effect, these guys are still swinging heavy broadswords and doing vicious damage. That is assuming that they survive long enough to reach the second round of combat. So they're kind of like a glass hammer. If they do get in and manage to swing their swords, they're going to do devastating damage. If they bounce, or if the enemy gets to fight first, then you're in trouble, as these guys don't get to carry shields into battle. They do have shields to keep them safe whilst marching across the battlefield or charging across the battlefield, but when they're in close combat, they switch, of course, to just having their two-handed great weapons, which means they do not have an arm free to use their shields. So they are a little bit lightly armored, but hit like a ton of bricks. Very cool unit. I'm very happy with these.
Pegasus Knights are a form of heavily armoured aerial cavalry, often hailing from the great dukedom of Paravon, hard on the slopes of the Grey Mountains, where many other noble mounts can be found. Their numbers are made up almost exclusively of knights of the realm, and even then only the richest and most influential of these knights can boast of owning a battle-trained Pegasus into combat, for the creatures are difficult to capture and even harder to train. Most knights who want to ride a Pegasus raise it personally from a foal. It takes around a year before the Pegasus is ready to accept a rider. However, it is not a full-time activity, as there is no problem with having other people to help raise it. Most Pegasus foals are bought very expensively. Therefore, hunters from both the Empire and Bretonnian brave the dangers of the mountain pass to secure Pegasus foals for willing nobles. Several of the knightly orders of Bretonnia have been exceptionally fond of the Pegasi, and a few lords have even begun to field whole squadrons of these Pegasi riding knights into battle. Accordingly, to own such a beast is the ultimate symbol of wealth and success for their owners. But in truth, a Pegasus is also a great practical boon for any knight fortunate enough to acquire one. The Pegasus is far stronger and faster than even the mightiest warhorse, easily able to crush a man's skull with its flailing hooves and cover great distance in a short amount of time. In the more wild and inaccessible domains of Bretonnia, there is real merit to a steed that is not prone to becoming mired in mud or entangled in thorns on the battlefield. Small groups of Pegasus Knights will band together, often outstripping the rest of the army as they search for honourable combat.
These have been kind of like a symbol of Bretonnian rule and might ever since the inception of Bretonnians into the game of Warhammer many decades ago. These are special units. These are knights mounted on Pegasus. You have to be some of the most fearsome, most agile, most skilled, and most noble knights to be granted a Pegasus Knight as a mount. I traditionally use them in squads of 3. And they are a serious menace to the enemy, having a 360-degree line of sight, meaning they can charge in any direction that they please, over units, hitting wizards, destroying war machines, getting in behind enemy lines, and causing an utter menace and nuisance. These guys have won me so many games, and I do thoroughly believe they are the bane of most of my opponents. They hate this unit, which makes me love them even more. Thoroughly recommend you contain these units in your Bretonnian army. Pegasus Knights are awesome.
A Grail Knight, also known as a Grail Paladin, is a member of what is arguably the most devastating cavalry force in the old world. Grail Knights are considered living saints by their fellow Bretonnians, infused with the divine power of their patron goddess, the Lady of the Lake. The first of the number were revered Grail companions of Bretonnia's founding legends. Alongside famous tales of felling dragons and other great beasts, Grail Knights are renowned slayers of both vampires and demons. The divine blessing of the Lady permeates each and every Grail Knight and has a debilitating effect on the unholy. Lesser undead such as skeletons and zombies crumble and collapse in their presence, while mighty blood knights and vampire lords find it painful even to look upon them. Wielding holy weapons infused with a portion of their own power, Grail Knights are capable of banishing the servants of the dark gods, breaking their grip on the mortal world. They have been rendered all but immune to the fell powers of chaos, for the Grail sustains their noble will far more than any magical trickery. Truly, the belief in the nobility of their lady-blessed cause is even more impervious than their shining armour.
And of course, we have saved the best until last. This is, of course, a unit of Grail Knights. These glorious knights have indeed supped from the chalice of the Lady, which have imbued them with unnatural reflexes, strength and martial prowess. On the battlefield, these are the only knights that have multiple attacks. They hit with incredible speed, with high initiative and an incredible weapon skill, meaning that I am pretty much comfortable pushing this unit in against any other unit in the game and being quite confident that these guys will come out on top. There's very few things that will get to fight before them, and anything that's fighting after is usually full of holes. They've lost many of their front rank and number. So these guys are absolutely incredible, and I fully intend to paint an additional rank for them, giving them a big, giant, powerful unit of 10 knights. Grail Knights are, of course, my favorite unit. As you can see, I've once again given them all their own unique heraldry, as I think it befits a unit that is this good looking. That is the last unit of knights that is available to the Bretonnian player. There's of course a couple of other mounted units like mounted yeomen, but they are peasants, they are not knights, and therefore have not been included in today's video. So unit number 5 is the glorious and holy Grail Knights. Okay guys, and there we have it. You have seen the 5 different versions of Bretonnian Knights that exist in the book so far, and you've seen all the different units that I've painted to represent each and every one of them. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You learned a little something about Bretonnians. It may even entice you to join the glorious crusade yourself and pick up a unit of these impressive knights. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you give it a like, ask me any questions you want in the comments below, and I will get back to each and every single person. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out for any and all future Old World and all other content uploads. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.